Hi, I'm Sean Geddes, Security Consulting Engineer at Apple, and I'm going to show you some of the security features in macOS 10 and how they can benefit your organization. So let's begin by taking a look at the application firewall for your client systems. Within System Preferences, you have the Security Preference. Within the Security Preference, you click on the Firewall tab. Now, a firewall is there to protect the system from incoming connections, whether you want to allow or deny those incoming connections. Within a firewall in OS 10, by default, it allows all incoming connections. That's because there are no services enabled by default on macOS 10. Now, looking closely at the security panel here, I see that there's three connection types. First of all, I allow all incoming connections, I allow only essential services, or I set all accesses for specific services. Now, if I select that second option of only essential services, those three essential services that are allowed are config-D for network configuration, MDNS Responder for Bonjour and auto-discovery of services, and Raccoon for the setup of IPsec. Now, if I select the third option here and limiting it to specific applications, if I select that, any application I add, I can then either block or allow incoming connections. Right now I have none in my list, so let me go ahead and add a new application. Click the plus sign, select an application from my applications folder in this case. So let's select Safari. Select the application, I add it to my list. Here you'll see that by default it'll do the all allow incoming connections, or I can block those connections coming in. By adding this application and allowing it, I've added it to the whitelist, allowing these applications. If I do the block, I'm now adding it to a blacklist or preventing those applications. Any application that's added to this list, if it is not already digitally signed, macOS 10 will sign that application. So let's look under the hood using Terminal and verify that indeed Safari has been signed. We verify that it's valid on disk and it satisfies the designated requirements again for the digital signature. Point to note is that Apple digitally signs all of the applications shipped in macOS 10. Now, to verify the applications and the connections coming in, that digital signature ensures the integrity of that app. So for instance, if someone were to modify the application, one way they could do it is they could modify particular files within that application. So if I just modify, for instance, the info plist file within Safari and go and replace it, I've now physically modified the application. What you'll see is if I try to verify that application, it now shows that it has been modified. So no longer is it the approved application. So when connections attempt to connect to this particular system, it will prevent that connection because no longer is that the same application that you've approved in your list. And finally, looking a little bit closer at the Advanced tab, the firewall allows you to enable both the logging and enable stealth mode. The logging, of course, would give you log files to know what has happened for both connections that have been allowed and denied. The stealth mode prevents the auto response back to ping messages, ICMP. So these are just some of the capabilities and features of the built-in application firewall. Now for the individual users, they can enable and leverage the application firewall, listing and adding these individual applications. Now this is going to reduce the burden and resource drain on IT admins for the configuration and management of firewalls on those individual client machines.